right, everyone, welcome to most likely one of the last installments here of the 2023 NAIA men's volleyball season. I'm joined here by Mike Teague. Mike was on the selection committee last year for this tournament. So he's got a little bit of an inside look on this process. And as of right now, as of time of recording, all of the matches around the country, all the conference tournaments have finished up, and we are waiting for Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. The NAIA National Championship brackets are going to be revealed, and so we're doing a little bit of a preview show today, giving you some of our guesses on what it's going to look like, as well as kind of explaining the process. So Mike, you want to kind of start us off here and talk to me about kind of what those conversations look like about, there's seeding in this, but then there's also some of these at-large discussions and what that looks like. And you want to kind of explain that process a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So this is obviously the exciting time of the year. All the conference tournaments are done, and now it's a matter of just putting all the data in and going through and seeing who is going to represent for the at-larges, right? So you have your 8 conference winners that are already automatically in, and then generally you would have 4 at-large bids, so to speak. But this year, because Grandview was not one of the auto bids for the first time that this has happened, they actually take a host bid. So there's only going to be 3 now of these at-large bids. And so basically how this works is that there is a selection committee that goes into this, and it's comprised of a few different individuals. So you have your 4 ARC chairs. So you have 4 different coaches who oversee the ARC, the regional rankings, so to speak. You have your NAC, which is the National Administrative Committee Sport Liaison. Basically, that's an AD within the NAI that is overseeing that. That is Troy Plummer with Grandview University. Then you have one president of the NAI MVCA, which I believe is the gentleman from St. Xavier. I think that's Tom Ryan over there. Then you have 3 at-large members. I actually don't know who the at-large members are. I don't know who the ARC chairs are, but those are the selection committee, and those are the people who will kind of oversee this. And they're the ones who are in charge of figuring out who these at-large bids go to, who these 3 at-large bids go to, and then B, they're in charge of seeding the teams 1 through 12. And this goes through all of the same metrics, and it goes through basically the criteria, and there's very specific primary criteria and secondary criteria that you go through it. And so basically it's a bunch of data, and hopefully they make the right decision at the end of the day, where not only people land in regards to getting these at-large bids, but also in regards to who is seated where.
Yeah, so that should be very interesting. Let's first talk about the 8 teams that have already secured and know that they're going to be in the tournament. Starting with let's go off your list of who you expect to be kind of the top seed that is in the tournament and that has received an automatic bid.
Yeah, I think for the automatics right now, the first one, I mean, if we go down just the conferences, it's out of the CalPAC, you've got Benedictine out of Mesa, and they're the #1 team in the country right now, and they won the CalPAC conference. They beat Westcliff, and they were able to win that one. So that's the first one.
Yep. So Benedictine Mesa defending, I guess they were in the national championship match last year.
I think they've been in the last 3 years.
I think a few years, yeah. So they've
Yeah.
been deep in the tournament and pretty familiar with this. So they secured their automatic. The next team that I'm going to bring up that I think would be the next seeded automatic team is Park University out of the Midwest here.
And so Heart of America. Yep.
Heart of America Conference. And so they won their conference tournament over Grandview University. Like we said, Grandview already knows they're in as well, based on their automatic bid. And then right there in that mix will be my program, Masters University. We won today the GSAT conference and a win over Vanguard. And so we've secured kind of knowing that we're in there as well. So that's let's see, that's 4 of the 12 teams right there. Who else has won automatic bids?
Yeah, so out of the Chicagoland, you've got St. Xavier. They won their conference tournament today. They secured their place. Then you've got out of the Mid South, you've got Georgetown. They won their conference tournament today. Indiana Tech out of the WAC Wolverine Hoosier Athletic Conference. They won theirs, and Weber International ended up coming in. I think they were the third or fourth seed in the in the Appalachian Conference, and they beat Warner in their final, which was a little bit of a surprise, but they've been playing well, some good ball throughout the last couple of weeks. And then finally, out of the GPAC, you had Jamestown that knocked off Dort in their final. And so, yeah, those are the 8 teams, so to speak, like you mentioned, all the other ones, but you've got Benedictine, St. Xavier, Masters, Jamestown Park, Weber International, Georgetown, and Indiana Tech. And then we can also throw in Grandview as the host school as the other automatic, so to speak.
And a number of these teams are pretty familiar with this tournament. Georgetown's been leading their conference for a number of years. St. Xavier's been leading their conference for a number of years. Indiana Tech, I believe, was in the tournament last year.
Yep.
Weber International, is this their first time?
Yeah.
This may be their first time reaching the NAIA tournament, so it's a new experience for them. Jamestown's been in the tournament the last number of years, and for Masters, this is our first time making the NAIA tournament. And so you got a
Yeah.
mix of programs that have been kind of taking over the conference for a number of years, and a couple new programs kind of breaking out into the scene.
Yeah.
I think at this point, one of the big questions is the at-large, right?
Mm.
And so there are 3 more spots available in this 12-team tournament. And I think it seems to be the first spot or two is almost assuredly going to a couple of these teams. And there's always a question on that last spot. And so to me, like the obvious answer for the first at-large spot is Vanguard University out of
Mhm.
Costa Mesa. We just beat them in the GSAC finals, but they've been number 1 in the country for a good portion of this year before dropping. I think they've been number 2 recently. And so they got upset today, but I would say they're pretty much a lock to be the first at-large team. What do you think on that next spot, the next 2 and 3 spots, and who do you think are kind of in the mix here?
Yeah, you know what? This year is unique compared to previous years, and especially last year, there were a few teams that could have been in, and I feel like that there were a couple of teams that feel like they might have been snubbed, and I certainly understand that. But this year, it kind of seems like it's pretty clear cut. Now, I do think that there could be 5 that could potentially take those last 2, and OUAZ, Menlo, William Penn, Mobap, and Lords. But to be honest, as I look at the criteria here, the primary criteria, I don't think that there's any doubt this year, and I think it's going to be OUAZ and Menlo that are in. I don't see any other way. William Penn, Missouri Baptist, or Lords can really get in. William Penn kind of has a resume there, but unfortunately for them, they came out on this West Coast trip, and they had a tough time out here. And so I just don't think that they have the resume that OUAZ and Menlo have. So for me, and I think you would probably agree, it's kind of going to be a GSAC party with Vanguard, OUAZ, and Menlo. And so that would put 4 teams from the GSAC going into the conference, which yeah, it's a definite shift from what used to be the Heart of America strong now to kind of the GSAC strong, at least for this year.
Yeah, and that's what I'm anticipating as well going into this week. But at the same time, the last couple of years, the GSAC has only gotten 2 teams in the tournament. They've gotten 1 at large, and they're automatic. And so it's kind of interesting. And I think the GSAC kind of as a whole has this resume this year, because I believe the GSAC has gone undefeated outside of playing Ben U a couple times this year. So any Midwest team or East Coast team has not been able to knock off any of the GSAC teams. And so kind of as a whole and as a group, we've beaten up on each other a little bit. Everyone's taken some good wins and some losses, tough losses. But it's been deep across the board, and we've shown that in terms of out of conference games as well. So I anticipate that as well with Ottawa and Menlo. Now, talk to me a little bit about rankings. I know you got a little board right next to you and you've been tracking this. I think the viewers would love to see kind of your anticipated pools here
Oh man.
of if this was the Mike Teague tournament of what you
Uh,
would do. I want you to walk us through like what you would do in your tournament
yeah.
and why and what you're thinking and kind of some of the tough decisions that the committee is going to have to make as there's some tough decisions in here specifically with seating.
Yeah, and so here, as I was showing Jared before we jumped on, I've got my pools that I think is going to be set, and it can be moved around a little bit. But if you look at it again, you've got specific criteria. The first one that's the primary criteria, which is you have to look at the analytic ranking, which is it's a kind of an algorithm of numbers on how many teams you beat in the top 10, top 15, how many losses you have, all that stuff. So it's an analytic ranking. It's the coaches poll. It's your area or arc ranking, and then it's your wins and losses versus the top 10. So that's like the primary criteria that you look at, not only when selecting for the at-large, but also in the seeding. You've got secondary criteria as well, but the primary is what you're kind of looking at. And so as I look at this, I was looking at, okay, who are the strongest teams as we go into this? And for me, I think Benedictine is going to be the number one seed. I don't think there's a doubt about that, unless something happens with the new arc that comes out, which is going to come out. The selection committee should have all this information tomorrow, but it'll be public on Monday. So all that to say, I think Ben Hughes is going to be number one. I really do. And now when it comes to 2, 3, and 4, it could be anything. And this is why I say this. If you look at the wins versus top 10, Vanguard and Masters are the only two teams that have more than 5 wins against teams in the top 10 right now. And it's a significant margin. Vanguard went 10-3, I think, against teams in the top 10 this year. Masters also went 10-3 in teams versus teams in the top 10 this year. So, but they're the only teams with 10 wins against top 10. Now, when you look at the analytic is kind of funny, but it pretty much shakes out. Vanguard's number 2, Masters is number 4, and then you've got Parking there at number 3 as well. The coaches poll, that's all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You guys can all see that. It's Bennu, Vanguard, Park, OUAZ, Masters. And then, when you look at the area rating, the arc and all that stuff there too, it's kind of going to shift, right? We were talking a little bit before this. The arc could very well be on the West. It could be Bennu, Masters, Vanguard, but it could also be Masters, Bennu, Vanguard as well. And so I don't know where it's going to go. All that to say, this is what I think. Let's pull out this board. I'm not sure if anyone can see this. Hopefully you can. Let's check this out. So as I look at it, in Pool A, you've got Bennu at number 1, Pool B, Vanguard 2, Pool C, Masters at 3, Pool D, Park at 4. The reason I say this, I think that, again, if you look at the number of wins against top 10, you've got Vanguard and Masters that are clearly above, even though Park only has 1 loss this year. The only reason I put Vanguard above Masters, and Jared and I disagree a little bit on this, is because Vanguard won 2 out of the 3 that they played. The most recent game, though, and you could do a recency bias, could have those flipped. You could also potentially have Park in that 2 to 4 spot as well. Once you jump down into that, you have OUAZ at 5, Menlo at 6, Grandview at 7, Georgetown at 8, St. Xavier at 9, Indiana Tech 10, Jamestown 11, Weber International at 12. So Pool A would be Bennu, Georgetown, St. Xavier. Pool B, Vanguard, Grandview, Indiana Tech. Pool C, Masters, Menlo, Jamestown. Pool D, Park, OUAZ, Weber International. Now, as you're looking at that, you're probably thinking, why are there so many GSAC teams in the same pool? I don't think you're going to be able to avoid it. To be honest, I think you're going to have 2 GSAC teams in one pool. You might be able to move Menlo down a little bit. We usually do not and did not move it more than 1 or 2 slots. And I cannot justify moving Menlo down to 8. It just wouldn't happen. They're better than Georgetown. They're better than Grandview. They beat Georgetown in a head-to-head matchup. So I don't think there's no way you can justify putting them down lower than 6. So
yeah. And
that's
so, yeah, for at least one of these GSAC teams, and it could be for multiple, I'm looking at this like we just played Ottawa last weekend. We just played Ottawa this weekend. We could play Ottawa next weekend as well.
Yeah.
Which means we're going to end up playing some of these teams, maybe up to 4 times in one season.
Yeah.
Which
And
is
that
which is
card.
wild, but
Right.
that's just how it goes at the same time. So especially when you see a familiar matchup, it should get very interesting come the end of the season here because these teams are very familiar with each other.
Yeah, and you can even say today's game, Vanguard and Masters, you guys did some different things that you didn't do early on in the first couple of games against Vanguard. It's because you guys are a little more healthy and you guys saw
Yep.
things in film that worked better too, right? That you switched some things
Yeah.
up and it worked. And you'd expect the same for Vanguard, maybe when they play you guys, hopefully not in the semifinals, but it's looking like it might be,
Yeah.
we're looking way too far ahead, but like there's a chance that
Yeah.
you could play Vanguard, 5
Four
times,
times.
4 times.
Yeah, that could easily happen.
Yeah.
And so that's just part of
Yeah.
it. So it should be interesting. It's tough to beat a team um, 3 times in a season. It's tough to beat a team 4 times in a season um, when you're all playing at a high level. So should
Yeah.
be interesting. But rankings come out, or the official seedings, the not Mike Teague seedings come out on Monday at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
this should be tomorrow by the time we're posting this. And so make sure to tune into that and follow us in about a week.
Yeah.
Mike, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I think, some people might be thinking, okay, well, yeah, 1 through 4, I think that's what everyone's talking about. 5 and 6, I think 1 through 6 is pretty set. I mean, if you look at some of these other ones, St. Xavier, Indiana Tech, Georgetown, Grandview, I mean, you could move some things around there. Again, with the primary criteria, I think it's pretty set in regards to where those are going to be. The secondary criteria, it's head-to-head matchups, and so if there's any teams that have played head-to-head, that'll kind of cancel each other out there. And then you've got the win-loss percentage in the last 25% of the season, win-loss versus teams receiving votes. And again, that's it's another thing that you're able to look at. And then you've got results versus teams qualified for the tournament already. So the resume is really strong for these top few seeds. And I'm curious to see how it all shakes out, to be honest. I really don't know how I think for sure, the only for sure I know is Benue 1, Webner National 12, Jamestown 11. Outside of that, maybe Indiana Tech 9. There could be some movement there. And so it just depends. It's tough because last year, again, I didn't think that Aquinas was going to make it, and they ended up getting in over a very strong Menlo team, a very strong MOBAP, Lords, Masters. I mean, they got in because they went on a late run. And so that recency bias is, as much as you have the analytics in there, recency bias is a real thing. And so you have to be, hopefully there's some strong voices in there that are saying, guys, we have to listen to the analytic and move forward with the analytics and what the criteria is. And again, the primary analytic is, or the primary criteria, it's not just any of them. That the analytic isn't the most important thing, but you have to kind of go through all of those and factor in what that looks like. Either way, it's going to be an awesome tournament, and maybe we'll do a little preview once all those things come out too.
Yep, absolutely. And the tournament starts in a little bit over a week on April 11th. Pool play will be April 11th, 12th, and 13th. Semifinals will be on the 14th. And the finals of the NAIA Championship will be on April 15th. So congratulations to all those teams that have made it. Good luck to the teams on the at-large side of things. And I'll be seeing some of you guys watching this out in Des Moines just next week. So thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you, Mike. And I'm sure you'll be following it.
I'll definitely be following. Thanks for doing this, and congrats again on your success. And yeah, it'll be fun. Go NAI volleyball.
Awesome. Thank you.